Welcome to this domain of the course. Malware is an important domain because as a cybersecurity professional, you must be aware of the different types of malware that exist, what are their attack vectors, and what are appropriate mitigation techniques. So malware is malicious software that has been designed to cause damage or enable unauthorized access to systems or networks for the purposes of theft, espionage, or sabotage. Malware is basically simply software, but which is malicious. It is designed to either steal data or to sabotage systems. Now, there are several consequences of malware, which can range from just theft or espionage, which basically means spying, or sabotage, which basically means you actually go ahead and damage the destination networks or the victim systems. Now, malware is all around us, and as a cybersecurity professional, you should be aware of the different types of malware and how they attack. We're going to have a look at different types of malware throughout this domain. So, malware is an executable file or binary that is malicious in nature. It is often used by hackers for some of the following purposes. So, data exfiltration tops the list. Now we have data all around us, which ranges from personal health information such as patient records to personal identifiable information, for example, your social security numbers, and then we have financial data as well. So the small difference between data and information is that data is raw in nature, but once it has been processed and converted into something which provides actionable insights or actionable knowledge, then that is called information. So one of the most important targets of malware is data exfiltration, which basically means unauthorized transfer of data from your network or your system to some external entity. It can also be used for spying. So basically a malware can install rats on your system, which basically refer to remote access trojans. Now, the basic purpose of rats is to open backdoors in your system, which allow hackers which are located remotely to remotely access your system. Then we have keyloggers, which basically record everything that you type. So imagine you're typing your usernames, passwords, banking information, and all sorts of data, and that's all logged by the keylogger and then eventually sent to a remote hacker. And then we have spyware, which basically tracks which websites you visit, for instance. Malware can also lead to ransomware attacks. The basic idea of ransomware is that it is a type of malware which basically goes ahead and encrypts your confidential files and databases. Now, since your business relies on those files and you don't have the key to decrypt those files, so basically this impacts your business operations directly. And then the hackers, they usually demand some sort of ransom in order to provide you with the key or in order to provide you with the unencrypted copies of your data. Malware attacks can also lead you to become part of a botnet. So what happens is that a hacker remotely hacks different systems and installs malware. That malware installs backdoors and then they report back to the hacker. So he acts as sort of a command and control station. So whenever he issues some commands remotely, those commands would be executed by the malware on your system as if the hacker was actually sitting on your system. Now, these type of bot networks are usually used to launch distributed denial of service attacks onto a victim server. So the hacker basically issues a command and all the systems which are part of that botnet, they start sending traffic, for instance, to the victim server. Let's see how malware infiltrates your networks and systems. So one reason is software vulnerabilities. If you have any weakness or vulnerability in your operating system, for example in Microsoft Windows or Android, or if there is a weakness in one of the applications that you've installed onto your system, then this may lead to malware infiltration because the malware would be able to bypass the security controls. And this is not only limited to operating systems and applications also. So for instance, Check Point, which is very famous for their firewalls, they indicated that they were able to discover hundreds of vulnerabilities into the hardware chips fabricated by Qualcomm for Android mobile phones. So any type of vulnerability, whether it is in the hardware, in the operating system, or the application, can lead to malware infiltration. And that's perhaps why it's very important to keep your operating system applications and firmware updated and patched. Perhaps the weakest link in the security chain are humans. You can have the best security controls in the world, but if one of your employees clicks on a phishing email, then that allows the hacker to bypass all the security controls at the perimeter and directly attack your corporate network. So the biggest attack vector is obviously malicious links in emails. Another reason is when you visit suspicious websites and then they download malware onto your systems. This is called a drive-by download. Malware can also be hidden in email attachments sent with the emails. So whenever a user clicks or opens that document, now the document often masquerades as something important. It could be your bank statement or a letter from your CEO, for instance, or HR. So it always masquerades as something important, baiting the user to click it or open it. Another big reason is installing untrusted software or installing software from untrusted sources. So even if you trust, let's say, Microsoft Office, but you should always install it from the official website, not from third parties, because that opens the door for malware infiltration. Now, malware usually doesn't attack directly. It's a two-step process. At the first step, they launch the droppers. So a dropper is a type of malware with a very small footprint. So the basic idea is that instead of going for the full-fledged malware installation directly at the first step, which may trigger alarms, you first try to get a foothold by dropping a small dropper. It's sort of a frontline soldier whose only purpose is to infiltrate your systems and networks. And this is typically done through phishing emails or by drive-by downloads. And once the dropper is in your system, in your network, it helps in downloading additional, more sophisticated malware. So what it does is that it opens a back door, creates a connection to a remote server, and then downloads more sophisticated malware, which then allows the hacker to penetrate further into your system. Droppers sometimes also employ keyloggers in order to capture user information. There are several different types of malware. We have viruses, worms, rootkits, trojans, logic bombs, keyloggers, spyware, and ransomware. As a cybersecurity professional, you must be aware about all of these different types of malware, their attack vectors, how to protect them, and how to mitigate or recover once your systems or networks are infected by any of these malware. We are going to discuss each of these in detail as we proceed throughout this domain. So here are some safety measures which you must implement as a responsible cybersecurity professional. So first is addressing software vulnerabilities. You should always keep your operating systems and applications patched and updated. And you should always install applications from trusted sources. Even if the application itself is trusted, you should still download it from the official website. Humans, which are the weakest link in the security chain, must be properly trained. So normally there should be security awareness workshops and training sessions which train users on how to detect phishing emails, on not to click on suspicious links or open suspicious email attachments. So if you implement all of these, this provides a safety baseline which can prevent or mitigate a lot of malware infiltrations in your organization. That concludes our lecture.